Hello everybody, this is A. Perez here, and today I'm here to do another Mario Kart video, but this time it will be different. So after the release of Wave 6 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC, everybody has been doing this thing called a tier maker, and they're using it for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the Booster Course Pass DLC in order to rank all 96 courses available in the game. Basically, they're ranking all 96 courses from both the base game and the Booster Course Pass DLC, where they put some of the best tracks at the S rank, for example, and some of the worst ones at the F rank. So that's what they're doing. I didn't really jump into this immediately. I felt like it was just too soon to start, and I just kind of wanted to take it nice and slow and all. I did see one person on Twitch that I know who's done it, but that's pretty much it. Then it came to me that Mario Kart 8 is celebrating its 10-year anniversary since its first release on Wii U, and it made me think maybe I should probably get on that before May 29th, which is the first release in Japan, that is. So I figured, what better way to celebrate Mario Kart 8's 10th anniversary by doing a tier list of my personal top picks of the best and worst courses this game has to offer through its 10-year lifespan. So just to be clear, this is not going to be an expanded review to include all the base courses along with Booster Course Pass, because then this will end up being like a 3 to 4 hour long video. So I'm going to talk a little bit quicker on each course, and then I'll just give out like my overall ranking for each course, just so I keep it like about 30 seconds or less, but maybe a little too long, but not too long. But we'll see about that. And of course, I won't be including the battle courses, not because the tier maker doesn't really have it on there, but mainly because they're different courses and it just feels unnecessary to include them. So we're only counting the race courses. With that out of the way, this is my Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the Booster Course Pass tier list.
Mario Kart 8!
Before we get started, I want to be extra clear about a few other things on how I'm going to handle this tier list of my own. First of all, any opinions I state about each course, for most of them, will be final, and nothing will ever change my mind if I love this course or I hate this course, so do not take it personal. Second of all courses will be out of order unless I pick out a few select courses that deserve to be on the top or at the bottom, so be mindful of that. So yeah, let's get started. First track coming up is Mario Kart Stadium. It's the very first track of the whole game, and basically it's a good beginner friendly course to get you familiar with the whole anti-gravity and a few other things they threw in this game. So honestly, it's a pretty good track. I enjoy it, the music's good and all that, so I'm gonna give it a B rank on this one. Next up is Water Park, and just like the previous track, this also uses anti-gravity, but this time it takes place underwater for a brief half a minute or something like that. But yeah, just like the previous track, it's a good one. I would give it a B rank for this course. Next up is Sweet Sweet Canyon, and this one is a pretty delicious and tasty one, but I'm not here to talk about this. Well, I'm here to talk about that this course is pretty fun. It has a branching path that happens in the middle of the course, and it can be pretty interesting and all that, so I'll probably give this a B rank for this course. Next up, Swamp Ruins, and unlike the previous courses, this one is a little more overwhelming and throws in plenty more at you with the rolling cogwheels, the swamps, the pits, the risky shortcuts, and a few branching paths. So it's not that hard of a course, but you gotta be mindful about that. So with this course, I'll pretty much give it a B rank on this. Now this next course is very interesting because we're here to talk about Mario Circuit. So this whole course is apparently a figure 8 on there, which is why it's called Mario Kart 8 in order to utilize the anti-gravity. So you're just going above and below both sides of this course, and I think it's very interesting, and the music's really good as well. So I'm going to give this an A rank for this course. Next up is Toad Harbor, and this course looks pretty lively and has a nice scenery on the ocean distance, and it has some branching paths and some trolleys to watch out for. So I'd say it's a pretty solid track. I would give this a B rank. Twisted Mansion is the next one. This one is pretty spooky because you have to do some twists and turns around, dive underwater, glide, and go through some booze and all that other shenanigans out to get ya. It's a pretty neat course. I would give this like an A rank just because it's pretty fun. Next up is Shy Guy Falls, and this is one where you ride through a waterfall in anti-gravity, glide around, take some shortcuts or the long way around, and it's a pretty good track. It's definitely not my favorite as most people prefer, but it's a good one. I would give it a B rank. For the next course, this is Sunshine Airport, and I gotta say, this is an impressive track. I love the music in this. I love that you're driving through an airplane lot as well as gliding through and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty fun. I'm gonna give this like a solid high A right there. I love this track. I definitely would play this a lot, not just for the music, but because of how fun this track is. Dolphin Shoals is the next one, and this is definitely one of my favorite tracks in Mario Kart 8 because not only do you get to see dolphins swimming around and racing underwater, but the music just really kicks off. The only thing is it's not until like later on in the track, but other than that, it's a very nice song to listen and jam to off time. So yeah, this is definitely S rank in my opinion. Coming up next is Electrodrome Let's Kick Shell. As we kick some Koopa shells and jam out to some of the music here, you go around through mostly a track with anti-gravity and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, this is a really cool track. I would definitely give this an A rank just because it's super colorful and, very, I don't know, it's just so good. Next up is Mount Wario, and this is definitely the most unique Mario Kart track across all Mario Kart games, and this is because instead of racing through laps, you're going through 3 unique sections, and I love how well this mixes up so much. I don't even know why we don't even see more tracks like this, even in the later DLC. So I would say this is definitely S tier in my book. The next one is Cloud Top Cruise, and I gotta say, I really enjoy this track a lot as well. Definitely pretty much my favorite track out of the original 16 courses because you're just riding through the clouds, going through an airship, and then going through the thunderstorm. Well, the music is very reminiscent of Super Mario Galaxy if you recognize the music well. So I gotta say, this is definitely one of the best tracks in Mario Kart 8, so definitely S tier, high up there. Next one is Bone Drying Dunes, and this is pretty much the only course out of the Mario Kart 8 base game that's pretty much the weakest just because around later on in the second half of the course, it just feels like the paths get a little too narrow. I get it's difficult, but it just leaves you a little exposed and you have to take a turn onto the other path to get the most optimal distance to get to closer to the finish line. I'll probably have to give this I'm gonna throw in maybe a D because it's not bad, but I think it could just do better. Next up is Bowser's Castle, and honestly, this is a really good course. The music is super cool and intense. It's like jazz, rock, metal-ish kind of mixed in a bit and all that. It's very enjoyable to listen to, and the hazards are crazy wild to get through. So yeah, I'll give this an A rank just because it's very nice for a villain course. Coming up in the last track of the Mario Kart 8 base courses is Rainbow Road, and I gotta say, it is pretty difficult, but at least it's more fair than Bone Dry Dunes. You just need to maneuver your drifts. I also like how it has a space theme to it, so it just makes sense. So yeah, I gotta say, I'll give this a B. It's not super duper impressive, but there are other Rainbow Roads coming up that are gonna be more impressive to this, so that's what I feel about this course. Starting up the retro courses of the base Mario Kart 8 game is Moo Moo Meadows, and I gotta say, this is a nice course to have as the very first for this retro course, and yeah, it's pretty simple. There's really nothing much in the way. except for the cows later on. I do feel like that's the one that kind of hurts a little bit, but it's really not much of a big deal. But I would give this a B just because it's pretty basic and simple, and it's really not too bad. Coming up next is Mario Circuit, and I gotta say, this is a really nice course. I love how visually it looks, and the only thing they changed up on this one is that they turned this U-turn section into an anti-gravity section. So yeah, I'm gonna give this an A ranking just because it's pretty fun to race around here. Next up is Cheap Cheap Beach, and this track's alright. It's like, it has a nice beach theme and all that with the water and the scenery and all that. But I feel like it kind of gets pretty hectic when you're getting like items thrown in on you while you're gliding and all that, which can pretty much mess you up and get your time wasted getting recovered by the Lakitu. Plus, I feel like the tracks at the end before the next lap are a little too narrow, making you feel a little open for items to come in at you. So I don't know, it's not a terrible course, but it's not too bad. I just think they really need to make this a little bigger, so I'll pretty much give this a C rank. The next one is Toad's Turnpike, and this one, it's pretty good. It's not my favorite, but I did enjoy this when I played through it, and yeah, there's a lot of cars coming towards you and coming with you, but it's really not as bad as the N64 version. I didn't really like that, especially in that extra Mirror Cup mode, but other than that, it's not too bad, so I would give this a B rank. Next up is Dry Dry Desert. This one is pretty alright, I would say. It's not bad, but you know, I wish it could do better. It just feels a little generic and a little plain, but you know, it's your basic desert course, so whatever. They don't really have like a lot of things from the original Mario Kart Double Dash, but it's like whatever. The only thing new is the water section near the end of this track, but other than that, it's, you know, pretty fine, I would say, so I'll give this a C rank. Next up is Donut Plains 3, and it does look pretty gorgeous, I would say, with the new Mario Kart 8 visuals and all that back then, but this one's a better course than what I remember playing in Super Mario Kart from. I hated this course in Super Mario Kart, it's because of the water section, but this is much more enjoyable and a lot more bearable, so I'll give it a B rank. Next up is Royal Raceway, and this is a pretty good course. It's pretty generic, but for a Peach themed racetrack, it's pretty interesting, I would say. There is Princess Peach's castle after you glide from the big old ramp, but you can't traverse and explore around there, which I'm not too bothered just because they want you to focus on clearing this racetrack. But other than that, I probably would give this like a B rank. Next up is DK Jungle, and this track is pretty much based on Donkey Kong Country Returns, as you can see with the tikis and all that, but it's a pretty nice course. There is, you know, pretty much some stuff going on, but other than that, it's a pretty fun one. I will give this an A rank. It's really good. Next up is Wario Stadium, and this is a pretty wild track, but not too wild, because it's got like some dirt, some boosters, some ramps, hills, an anti-gravity section, and an underwater section to run around, and yeah, that's pretty much all I could say about this. Like, it's a good track, I'll pretty much give it a B rank. Next up is Sugarland, and this is a pretty cool track, no pun intended. It's got a few branching paths at the beginning and near the end, so that whatever your cart is more suited for, whether it's on land or underwater, you can take either way to take advantage of it. And yeah, it's pretty nice looking. I would pretty much give this a B rank. Next track is Music Park, and it's alright. I didn't really like it that much in Mario Kart 7. This one is a little better since it's a wider track than before, but honestly, it doesn't really do much. The big old notes near the end doesn't really have like the fast tempo as you progress through the race each lap, but I guess it's just to prevent any advantages taken from any kind of player, but oh well, whatever. I'll give it a C rank. Next up is Yoshi Valley, and this is one of those interesting tracks where there's like so many branching paths you can take, but once you play this track online a whole lot, it kind of gets redundant for almost every other path if you just follow the shortest path possible, and honestly, it just kind of like defeats, the wide variety of choices and strategies, which none of them even do. So I recommend taking the fastest path in this one. But other than that, it's a good track. It's not super amazing, whatever, but it's fine. I'll pretty much give us a C. The next course is TikTok Clock, and before I say more about this, I'm the type of person who prefers the right near the start of the track instead of the left like everyone else takes. Fight me. But anyways, getting back to the point of this track, I think it's pretty neat. It has a really nice clock theme inside and all that, and it's like a lot of cogwheels going one direction over the other, and it's a pretty varied track, I would say. So I'll give it a B. Next up is Piranha Plant Slide, and I'm going to be honest with you, I hated this course back in Mario Kart 7 just because the tracks were too narrow for this track and there isn't really much space to avoid the piranha plants, but thanks to Mario Kart 8 and its larger scale, avoiding the piranha plants shouldn't be too much of a problem. So yeah, if I were doing a Mario Kart 7 tier, which I won't do, I'm sorry, I would have given this like an F. But since this is Mario Kart 8 and this has been improved so much, I'm gonna give it a B. Next up is Grumble Volcano, and this one it's pretty good. It's one of these tracks where it progressively gets a little more difficult and tricky to handle as it progresses through each lap because part of the road does fall apart and you have to make do taking the safe path as possible as you can in order to stay on track and win in the race. But other than that, it's a pretty good track. It's not super duper impressive or anything despite how amazing it looks visually. So I'll probably give this like a high C, close to B. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely not like the best track ever. But it's pretty good. Last one up in the base courses of the retro tracks for Mario Kart 8 is Rainbow Road from the Nintendo 64, and I gotta say, this music surprised me and it's so amazing to listen to. It just makes you feel like you're very satisfied, you're almost there. But anyways, this track is very visually gorgeous and it's pretty fun. I just wish it was like longer, just like the original N64 game, but other than that, this is pretty good enough to enjoy, and yeah, I would give this like an S rank just because this is one of my favorite Rainbow Roads remade in this game, so yeah. First up on the first DLC of the original Mario Kart 8 is Yoshi Circuit, and it's a pretty simple course for the first one out there. It's definitely Yoshi shaped, of course, that's if you look at the map, but yeah, it's a pretty fun course. It's simple, there's really nothing too much going on other than like piranha plants and other obstacles in the way, but yeah, this is definitely an A tier rank course on my list. Excite Bike Arena is the next course, and this is a really interesting course since they're basing it off on the Excite Bike game on NES. You just got like multiple lanes of 4, and then you got some dirt on the way, some ramps to jump on. It's a pretty fun course. I believe it does randomize from time to time, so the courses will vary, but honestly, it's a really great course. I would give this an A. Next up is Dragon Driftway, and this is one of those interesting courses where the course is very drift heavy as the name implies, but it's pretty fun once you pull off these satisfying drifts here and there. I know a lot of people don't really prefer drift heavy tracks, but I honestly don't mind at all. So yeah, I would probably give this a B rank, like B average, I don't know, but definitely around B rank for this course. Next up is Mute City, and just like Excite Bike Arena, this course is based off of another video game, which is F-Zero. I know a lot of fans love F-Zero, but yeah, this is a nice way to give service to all the F-Zero fans who are still playing Mario Kart to this day. So yeah, they had to make an F-Zero track for this. There's another one coming up though. But yeah, it's very interesting. It very uses heavily on anti-gravity and all that. So I would say this track is definitely A tier on my list. I really liked it when I played it, and it's pretty fun. Next up is Wario's Gold Mine, and just like Piranha Plant Side, I didn't really like this course back in Mario Kart Wii, but thank goodness the anti-gravity helps so much on this one, because when you get to the minecart section, all the minecarts are all anti-gravity boosters that you can just spin boost and you don't have to worry about getting knocked out. So it's a pretty good track. I would give this an A. Next up is Super Nintendo's Rainbow Road from Super Mario Kart, and it's kind of odd seeing this place on the second of the 4 tracks in respective order of this cup, but yeah, it's a pretty short track. There's like a lot of openings where if you make one mistake falling off, you're gone. And yeah, there's a lot of swamps that you gotta watch out as well, and a few ramps to risk yourself to get up ahead, a bit of distance and speed, but yeah, other than that, it's an alright track. I probably would give this a C rank. Ice Ice Outpost is the next one, and I gotta say, it's a decent track. I kinda like it, but not a lot. The music is the only thing that redeems it so much. It's just, very interesting to listen to. But honestly, this track doesn't feel like it's enough to redeem itself for being a good one. And so, yeah, I wish they would have done more with this. So I'll give it like a high D rank or something. The last track in the Zelda DLC pack for Mario Kart 8 is Hyrule Circuit. This is the one a lot of people have been waiting for, and this is also based on The Legend of Zelda. Of course, that's why it's called the Zelda pack in the first place for Mario Kart 8. But yeah, you basically go through the castle while collecting rupees, which are equivalent to the coins in Mario Kart 8. And you can activate the switches there, and if you activate all 3, you can activate the ramp that you can pass through the Master Sword. It also has some references on sound effects, like the ones from Twilight Princess, when you hit the switches, and the Zelda Link to the Past jingle when you activate them all. It's very neat. It's a very Zelda heavy course, and yeah, even the Deku Bobos are like the piranha plants, which I guess that's what it's inspired from when they were making Mario and Zelda games back in the NES and later on. But yeah, this is definitely A tier, definitely a great track to play through if you're a huge Zelda fan. The first track in the Animal Crossing DLC is Baby Park, and this is one extremely short course, but it does have anti-gravity, which can be pretty hectic, especially with all these items coming at you here and there. But yeah, there's really nothing much else to say. This is the only track that has the most amount of laps just because of how extremely short it is. So you gotta be on your toes and your wheels if you want to take first place. So I would probably give this like a B rank, just because it's very simple and it's, pretty crazy. So I don't know what else I want to say about this. Next up is Cheeseland, and this course is kind of interesting, but definitely not like my most favorite. It's got a tasty cheese theme to it, like the holes just to represent the open holes on the cheese and all that. But yeah, it's a pretty neat track. There's also a chain chomp that gets in the way. I kind of don't like how it pretty much takes up almost the whole spot, making you feel a little unsafe. But other than that, it's a solid course. I would give this like probably a high C on there. Next up is Wildwoods, and honestly, I really thought this was one of those Animal Crossing themed tracks just because the name sounds similar to one of the Animal Crossing games subtitled Wild World, so there goes something on my mind. But yeah, this is very interesting. You got like a nice Shy Guy village and Toads just cheering you on and all that, and it's pretty neat. I would give this like an A rank just because it looks fun and crazy. Next up is the Animal Crossing course, and honestly, this is the one course that shines the most in this Animal Crossing DLC. So yeah, this is one of these courses where you'll notice a lot of Animal Crossing villagers like Bob, Marshall, Wolfgang, and many others. You'll see them across the course, and it also has 4 seasons to use: spring, summer, fall, and winter. I think if you press one of the 4 corresponding shoulder buttons on your controller before selecting the course, you may pick a specific season to play, but I'm not too sure. I haven't really tried it much at often, but it does work from what I remember. But other than that, this is a very luscious course, and all 4 seasons are great. I think I love winter the most, so this is a really nice course. I'm going to give this an S tier. Next up is Neo Bowser City, and honestly, this is one of those Mario Kart 7 tracks where it's pretty crazy. This track has like a lot of drifting, a lot of open areas where you gotta watch out not to fall off, or else you'll be wasting some time trying to recover. It's a pretty wild track. I have no idea what Bowser is thinking, but the theme of it looks really freaking cool. It has that futuristic setting on it, and it's pretty cool. I would probably give this like a low B rank. It's not bad, but it's definitely not my favorite. Next up is Ribbon Road, and I gotta say, this is one really cute looking track just because it gives me Toy Story vibes from seeing all this. It's like you're in a toy room with ribbons you're riding through, and it's pretty neat. There is some open areas, but it's not that bad. But yeah, definitely A tier, literally high up on the A tier list. Next up is Super Bell Subway. You're basically going through a subway with trains heading towards you while also having to take a few multiple paths to glide, jump around, and all that. It's kind of a wild and dangerous track, but it's really not that bad. But it's definitely not my favorite, so if I have to rank this, I would say probably on the high C tier list. Last one on the Animal Crossing pack is Big Blue. This is another F-Zero track, and honestly, I love this more than Mute City just because the music is very interesting, intense, and very satisfying to listen to. And then once you cross through the third lap, or the third section of this, you'll hear the N64 version of the final lap. Honestly, I think this is amazing. I had a lot of amazing moments when I played this back then, and it still holds up very well today, so definitely S tier right there. Halfway through this list is Paris Promenade, where we're starting off the very first track of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Boosted Course Pass DLC. So visuals aside and all that, this track is pretty good. It's basic. It's supposed to give you a good impression of what future tour tracks would be like from this, and yeah. And also my rating for this will be based on my review score. It might change a little bit different from here and there, but I'm pretty much gonna have to base it from what I reviewed it on my video on there. So yeah, for this one I'm gonna give it a C rank. Next up is Toad Circuit, and this is a basic simple course, really nothing much else to add into it. It's just to help you get warmed up for the DLC when that came out back then, so I'll give it a C rank. Next up is Choco Mountain, and this is a pretty good course. There's really not much else because it's just, a simply made course with, barely much going on other than the swoopers and the chocolate rocks falling down. And yeah, it's a little different than the original course with the gliding section and all. So I'll give it a C. Next up is Coconut Mall, and this one is a fan favorite track. However, this was padded pretty bad because of how underwhelming it delivered. There wasn't a lot of moving cars until the next wave came out, so that kind of addressed that. I was going to give it a D rank if, they didn't fix the moving cars at the end. But I'm going to give it a C, just because I did increase the score up to 7.8. Next up is Tokyo Blur, and this is one of the few tracks in Wave 1 that I actually liked, along with another one coming up. This one looks pretty nice, there's a lot more multiple paths to take, and yeah, it's pretty good. I would give this a B rank. Next up is Shroom Ridge on Mario Kart DS, and this track is, there's like, moving blocks, moving cars, which, understandably, you are riding on a road, but I feel like there's a little too much going on, which can be a little overwhelming. And if I recall, I did mention that this is a track that could have been saved on a future wave, just to make this feel a little more intense with the other tracks, so I don't know, I'll give this a D rank. Next up is Sky Garden, and I remember saying that there is one part in the track where there is a missed opportunity of it having anti-gravity, which it didn't have, unfortunately. But aside from that, it's a nice looking track, but it's definitely not amazing or whatever, so oh well, I'll give this a C rank. Next up is Ninja Hideaway, and I gotta say, this is a very nice track. It has plenty of different paths to take, up and down, high and low, and all that. It gives you strategy and ideas on what you can do on each route. There's also the hidden route that I kind of mentioned before, but I didn't really mention it along the way. But oh well, aside from that, it's a pretty great track. B rank, I would say. Next up is New York Minute, and I gotta say, this is one of my favorite tracks on there. And it's very neat. It's very reminiscent of Super Mario Odyssey, like I haven't mentioned before. So yeah, I remember giving this an 8.8 out of 10 in the review, but since I love this track plenty much, I'm pretty much gonna bump it up to an A instead of a B. It deserves it. Next up is Mario Circuit 3, and yeah, it's just a very generic, basic course. Nothing much going on, nothing new. Visuals don't look as impressive as the Donut Plains course from Mario Kart 8, but yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 6.5, so this is gonna be on the D tier list. Next up is Calamari Desert. Now, even though I didn't like the one they have in Mario Kart 7, this one takes it up the notch a lot, where in the second and third laps, they changed the paths, and it just was like literally pretty surprising. I don't know. I was speechless, but like it was pretty nice of them to mix it up a bit. So I'm giving this a B rank. Next up is Waluigi Pinball, and I did really love this course. I love how colorful and bright and vivid this track looks, and I really admire it, honestly. It's pretty much a good track compared to the other Mario Kart Wii tracks, so I don't know why we don't get more tracks like this, but yeah. Honestly, I'm going to give this an A, even though I did give it an 8.8 on the review, because I say so, and it deserves it. Next up is Sydney Sprint, and honestly, I didn't like this course, even though the soundtrack for this one is banger, but it's because there's like plenty of narrow spots to ride through, and it's just not very friendly for trying to avoid items on your way and all that. And also there's plenty of obstacles in the way that can really cause like some interference to your driving and all that. So I don't know, this track kind of needs to be toned down, so I'm toning down this rank to an F because I gave it a 5 out of 10 in the review. Next up is Snowland. I don't really like this course, honestly. The road is too slippery throughout the whole track. It should have been slippery only on the ice part in the middle of the track where the penguins are sliding. And most of all, the item blocks are just moving along with you, meaning that if you're trying to get an item but you miss it because of the slippery ice, you're not going to get any items to protect yourself or help you out. So, pretty bogus track. Very, very down on the F tier. Next up is Mushroom Gorge, and this is one of these tracks where it's just pretty basic. There's really nothing much changed. They did play it safe, at least, unlike a certain track that we're going to come across later on. But yeah, it's a solid course. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. I'm putting this on C rank. Next up is Sky High Sunday, and this is the first track of the Booster Course Pass DLC that utilizes anti-gravity. Thank goodness it took them a while to throw that in after all the nonsense in Wave 1. But yeah, it's very tasty, it's delicious, and I really like it. I give it an 8, but I kind of want to like update it to 8.5, but you know, my scores are final, so it's like whatever. But see how you imagine what my score would be, so this is going to be like a little higher on the B tier list. Next on this list is London Loop, and honestly, it's a pretty good track. There's a lot going on with like paths and all that, and very nice scenery with, you know, the Big Ben and some of the other famous London places here and there. I don't know much about the city, by the way, so oh well, but you know, it's a pretty neat track. It's fun and all that, but it's gonna be on the C tier for me. Ooh, Bootleg on GBA. Now this is the one track I love the most out of this wave, but yeah, definitely utilizes the anti-gravity, the underwater section and all that. It's a really fun course. I really love it. They should have just done that for the previous courses in the Booster Course Pass for Waves 1 and 2, but yeah, definitely S tier. Rock Mountain is the next one on the list, and honestly, it's one of those play it safe courses that Hasn't really changed too much whatsoever, but they did add in the anti-gravity section near the end, so I guess it's a nice thing to throw in. So I was kind of debating whether I should put this on the C tier list or B tier list, but I think I'm going to put on the high C tier list just because I gave it a 7.8 on the review, so I figure it might be fair enough. So yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's definitely a decently solid one. So yeah. Now next one is, oh no. Do I really need to say it? Anyways, back to where we're at. We're gonna check out Berlin Byways, and it's a pretty nice looking course, I gotta say. I don't know what else I could describe it, but it's a solid track. It's gonna definitely be on B tier in my book. Peach Gardens is the next one, and I gotta say, this is a nice track, and also I really love how it mixes up at the third lap, where instead of just going through the usual, you're just going in reverse. And yeah, I don't know why not many tracks don't follow suit from this, but yeah, I'm giving it a B rank. Next up is Merry Mountain, and I gotta say, I was not expecting Nintendo to throw in a holiday course, though I kinda was back then because it was going to be released around the holiday season. But yeah, this looks really nice, looks festive and all that. And yeah, this is also one of these tracks that utilizes the anti-gravity ramps, like in another course that I kind of skipped over. But yeah, this is definitely an A tier rank on here. Next one up is Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 7 on the Nintendo 3DS, and yeah, this is one of those unique Rainbow Roads where it has 3 sections, just like Nintendo 64's Rainbow Road, except this one is, the first one before they started doing that. But yeah, it's very unique, it's very well mixed up with each section, so yeah, I don't know why we don't get a lot more courses like this, but oh well. But it's gonna be on B tier. It's a good one, but definitely not my favorite. Moving on to the next half of the Boosted Course Pass DLC is Hamsterdam Drift, and yeah, I know, I pronounce Hamsterdam, fight me. But anyways, it's a pretty beautiful course. It looks pretty lovely and all that, with like a lot of tulips and flowers and sceneries and all that. I mean, it's a fun course. It's pretty good. I would give this a B rank. Next up is Riverside Park, and honestly, it's a pretty fun course. It's short, but it's fun, it looks lively, and it's a breeze to drive through, so it's gonna be on B rank. The next one up is Decay Summit, and this is one of these courses that hasn't really ever been remastered in a Mario Kart game. So it's pretty nice that it's gotten remastered despite being a Mario Kart Wii course, but it is pretty nice. It is pretty cool. It looks fun and all that, and like it's not as butchered as a certain Mario Kart Wii course that refused to show footage of. But other than that, it's a solid course. It's really good. I'll give it a B rank. Okay, I don't need to say any more about this track since you know what I'm going to give it. High S rank. Definitely the highest above all the tracks. This is just the most well done course ever. Nothing else is going to top it. Moving on to the next one, we got Bangkok Rush, and it's a pretty neat course. I don't know what else to say. There's a lot of stuff going on to right above and below and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, it's gonna be on the B tier list. Next up is Mario Circuit on the Nintendo DS, and it's a pretty simple course. It's a bit basic. There are like obstacles in the way, like Goombas, Piranha Plant fireballs, and even a big old wiggler later on, but it's a pretty standard with a slight trickiness on there, so I'm pretty much gonna give it like a B rank. Waluigi Stadium is up next, and it's a pretty crazy one. You got like you know, the usual with the fireballs ringing around here. But you also got like anti-gravity sections that you can just ride up there if you want to stay safe from all the craziness down below. So it's a nice mix-up, but it's a little overwhelming. But other than that, it's really not too bad once you get familiar with the course. So I'll give this a B. Next up is Singapore Speedway, and honestly, I really like this track. It's definitely not my most favorite, but it's definitely a great one. Like the colors are luscious and very colorful, and it looks pretty futuristic and all that. Well, not super futuristic, but it looks like above modern, but it's really nice. It's fun, it's crazy and all that. I really love it. I'm giving this an A rank. Next up in this next wave is Asen's Dash, and honestly, I didn't really like this course. There's too many obstacles in the way thanks to the pillars, and you don't even expect where to go next since you're barely get any visibility on where to go. It's just, you know, not a very beginner friendly course, so I'm gonna have to give this like an F rank. Next up is Daisy Cruise, and it's an alright track. It's not bad, but it's not terrible. I just wish it was better and all that. There's like too much in the way, like moving tables, and I know it's already in the original Mario Kart Double Dash game, but still, it's like it can get a pretty messy when you're racing on the track. So, but other than that, it's a nice looking track and it's a fun one to play through. So I'll put it on the high C tier list. Next up is Moonview Highway, and I honestly love this course. I remember having a lot of fun with it with all the speeds and thrills and all that. It's one of those Mario Kart Week courses that I actually like. And even though this is in the later cubs in that game, it's still a fun one, and it's also one of these courses that never got remade in a later Mario Kart game, so I'll allow that. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 from my review, but you know what? I'll bump it up to A rank just because I think about it more and I just think it deserves to be on the list. Squeaky Clean Sprint is the next one, and honestly, it looks very interesting. It takes place in the bathroom. You're riding around the water, the showers, and all that, and it's pretty neat, I would say. Plus, like near the end of each lap, there's like high areas that you can just climb up to. So I think it's kind of neat, but yeah, I'm gonna give this a high B rank just because it looks pretty interesting, like I said. Next up is Los Angeles Labs, and honestly, I really love this course. It's very nice looking, it's very fun to play through, and you know, I enjoyed it, so yeah, definitely on A tier in my book. Next up is Sunset Wilds, and it's a pretty fun track for a GBA track, and definitely the last one we'll be talking about in this Booster Course Pass, along with the whole game, but it's a pretty fun one. It's enjoyable. It's, you know, not too bad. I really love it. I'm going to put it on the high B tier list just because it's, you know, it's really good, and I don't know if I really want to put it on A tier. I was like debating if I should, but I'll just put it on B. Coming up next is Koopa Cape, and it's a pretty good course, and it's pretty much better than a certain Mario Kart Wii course I skipped. I know, I'm sorry, but yeah, it's good, it's better, they played it safe, and you know, the underwater section is pretty neat since you're going underwater, and it has anti-gravity, so it just works well. So yeah, I'll put it on B tier. The next course is Vancouver Velocity, and it's a pretty neat track. It's pretty much very interesting and, you know, a little more unique than the other tour tracks, and there's a anti-gravity section in the bridge section, but yeah, and there's also like hockey, skiing, and all that, so it's pretty neat. So I would give this an A rank, even though I did give it an 8.8, but honestly, I think it deserves it and to be an A rank. Almost done with this as we are at the last wave of tracks in this one, so we're going to start off with Rome Avanti, and honestly, it's a really nice track. you get to explore around the Colosseum and check out Rome and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty fun and it's, very interesting. So I'm going to give this a B rank. Next on this last set is DK Mountain, and it's a pretty good one. It's pretty fun, and it's very faithful mostly. They do have barrels thrown in, but other than that, it's a pretty nice track, and yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna give this a B rank. Next up is Daisy Circuit, and for a Mario Kart Wii track, it's a pretty good track. Definitely not the best, but definitely not terrible. But yeah, it's very reminiscent, and it's, one of those safe courses. So yeah, I'll pretty much put this on the B rank. Next up is Piranha Plant Cove, and honestly, this is one of these interesting courses with three of these labs being very unique, as usual with most of the tour tracks. And yeah, it's not based on the city or anything, it's pretty original, and it's really fun and crazy. So yeah, definitely A tier. Coming to the home stretch with Madrid Drive, as this is a very nice course. The music is great, and there's a lot of themes for it, football as it's called over there, and lots of neat things around here. But yeah, definitely A tier. Rosalina's Ice Road is the next track that's gonna keep things cool down later. It's a pretty neat track. It's slippery, but it's pretty crazy. Even if you're playing on 200cc, it can get pretty wild, but it's a pretty overwhelming track, but it's really not that bad. But, if you're really good enough, then you might not have too much difficulty. So, yeah, definitely B rank. Bowser's Castle 3 is definitely one of the sickest courses I've ever played from a Bowser Castle, and it is definitely S tier just because the music is sick, the tracks is amazing, and oh man, it's just wild. They really done it themselves with this track. Definitely S tier, like I said. And to top it all off, Wii's Rainbow Road. I was doubtful how bad they could butcher this before I started playing this enough. But man, this is impressive. They haven't really messed it up so bad, and I am so surprised that they didn't even mess this up very horribly. It's very well detailed and it's very colorful. It's definitely the best Mario Kart Wii remastered track out of the others. So definitely S right here. And that's it. Those are all the 96 courses Mario Kart 8 Deluxe plus its Booster Course DLC has to offer. It was an overwhelming and exhaustive list of each course I had to cover in a short amount of time, and I managed to do it. I did it. Whoo-wee! But yeah, in case you want to see my tier list, it's already showing on screen, just scrolling down and then it'll zoom out to have the full picture. But yeah, those are pretty much every course I had talked about and how I feel about them. There are some few bad ones, but there are plenty of good ones and, some fun ones that I definitely would play a lot. It was pretty interesting and enjoyable to play through Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and its Booster Course Pass DLC for 10 years. Literally, it's been a decade since Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U, and yeah, it's been a wild ride and a fun journey so far. And yeah, I don't know what Nintendo will have up in stores in terms of new Mario Kart games coming in the future with the next Nintendo console. And yeah, honestly, Nintendo is gonna keep using Mario Kart as their biggest selling point for their hardware, and yeah, I can kind of see Nintendo just continuing that no matter what. It's never going to die, and Nintendo will find new ways to make new tracks while also bringing old tracks as well. Just as long as they don't butcher it very poorly. But yeah, the only reason I ended up doing this tier list is not just because everyone else on the internet has been doing it, but it's mainly because I just felt like I really need to express my thoughts and opinions about the courses and how I feel about them while also just disregarding other people's opinions just because they think they're right, but like I doubt it and all that sort of stuff. I may have already said this on my Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass review video, so you probably expect the same thing to hear from me say in this video. So like yeah, cause like I don't always agree with everyone and I don't expect anyone to agree with me, but you know, I just want to give out my full coverage on each and every single track since I've only covered up the Booster Course Pass DLC, but not the base ones, including the old DLC and the original Marker 8, you know, the Zelda and the Animal Crossing tracks. But yeah, this is definitely a fun ride. It was overwhelming. I was kind of discouraged on not wanting to do it, but I managed, and yeah, it just felt like it was something I just had to do. Plus, it's also a nice celebration to celebrate Marker 8 and its 10th anniversary so far. And yeah, 10 years since the game came out on Wii U. It's crazy that this game has gotten so much support aside from like Mario Kart Wii and 7. But yeah, it has been a hugely supported game, and you know, it's like, you know, they Nintendo really wanted to make Mario Kart 8 Deluxe feel new, so they had to throw in the Booster Course Pass DLC just so it just stays relevant for the whole decade it's been going through. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with the tracks, and I guess I had fun making this video as well, even though I was kind of like pretty overwhelmed. Like I wasn't feeling like I wanted to do it, but I just had to. But oh well. But yeah, I think I rambled long enough. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe on YouTube. Check the links in the description down below and all sorts of stuff. I don't think I'll be doing much Mario Kart 8 coverage at this point just because I did them and all that, but I just want to express how I feel after a certain track just literally ruined my mood about this, which is the main reason why I ended up doing this video. It's just, yeah. But anyways, I think I rambled on long enough. So thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Later. And happy 10th anniversary to Mario Kart 8.